Right, to tonight's council meeting. First order of business is if you'll all please rise for tonight's invocation. Please remain standing for your Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation will be given by Reverend Matt McCollum of Trinity Presbyterian Church.
Let us pray. God, we give you thanks for the beauty and vibrancy of this community and for those that you have called to give leadership, especially for our city council and mayor. Pray for them and for all of us that you would give us steadfast hearts, an understanding to know you, diligence to seek you, and wisdom to find you. Direct us, O Lord, in all of our doings with your most gracious favor, and further us with your continual help, that in all of our works begun, continued, and ended in you, that we might glorify your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend McCollum. Okay, council, first order of business, I would like to entertain a motion to amend tonight's agenda. We need to add as agenda item number 24, the introduction of the ordinance for the impact fees presented in the work session. And then as item number 25, a harbor board appointment. And then we would have public participation. And then as item 27, the need to go into executive session. So I would like to entertain a motion to amend tonight's agenda as I stated. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none.
Hold on. Yes, impact fee.
Oh, that's okay.
We're good?
We're good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of amending the agenda as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay. The agenda is amended. First item it would be to approve the minutes of the July the 9th regular city council meeting, the work session, and the agenda meetings.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay. Mayor Wilson, your report, please.
Thank you, Council President. The draft budget was completed Friday, and I want to thank everyone in the Finance Department, our department heads and their staff, Mike Henson, and especially Jill Cabanis, our Finance Director, for her hard work to get this first draft completed. It is the first draft, but a lot was accomplished over the last 3 months. I'd like to encourage council to view the Director Roundtable meeting from today, which is a more in-depth look at department head updates. And we went over a few of the things that we're going to propose in the budget to try to be more efficient with our processes. And Lisa Hanks, Mike Henson, and other department heads are going to recommend solutions that will, I think, save us hundreds of hours of time to better manage unnecessary, wasteful inefficiencies. Our new website is up and running, and we are receiving great feedback from our citizen users. Thank you to Sean Spratton and Laura Selby, and working so hard, diligently working hard with Sherry Lee, who has been working on this for about a year, accomplishing this tremendous undertaking. There are a few kinks still need to be ironed out, and we're adding a lot of information per department every day, but it really is a lot more user-friendly. And if you use our website on your cell phone, it is formatted now for mobile use, and that's really what most people use the website for. Our Public Works Department has been busy this year dehoarding our warehouse, as Richard Johnson likes to call it. Another list of items will be presented tonight to be placed on the surplus list and sold at auction. To date, the city has realized, well, just for the 2018 budget, realized $108,000 in revenue from surplus items. I want to send kudos to Jeff Montgomery for his resolve on correcting a recurring billing error from AT&T. He has been working on this since 2016. That's persistence. We have been overcharged by $800 a month for the last 2 years, and we'll be receiving a credit soon. It's this type of mentality within our city government that helps the city as a whole accomplish the best fiscal responsibility to our taxpayers. The third annual Back to School Red, White, and Blue, headed up by the Fairhope Police Department this past weekend, was another great success. The event, which helps struggling families prepare for the upcoming school year, donated free school uniforms, backpacks, and school supplies, haircuts, and sports physicals to several hundred students. And then I heard from Lieutenant Sledge that it was more like 400 students, and conservatively valued at around $200 each. They served up food and fun with water slides and a dunking tank, and I think our chief was dunked last, and the water was quite dirty. This is just from our director roundtable meeting. Families could also take advantage of free identification kits for their kids. We wouldn't do it without our amazing community partners and the City of Fairhope staff for their tremendous help. We have extra supplies, so if you know anyone who might be in need of back-to-school items, the police department will be giving these out again on July 26th at the department. So I want to thank everybody for that. It is with great sadness we announce the passing of recently retired Fairhope K-9 Sagan. He served for 8 years alongside his partner, Detective Becky Woodruff. Sagan would have turned 9 Wednesday. Please keep those who loved him in your prayers. I want to congratulate Officer Mike Crittenden, who is retiring yet again, this time from the Fairhope Police Department after 20 years of service. Mike first retired out of the U.S. Navy with 20 years of service, and then he worked for Mount Morris City Police Department, the town in which he was born and raised. Mike also worked at the Clio Vienna Police Department, Michigan. The love of his life brought him here to Fairhope. We wonder if retirement will actually stick this time. We thank Mike for his service to our community and wish him well in his retirement. And that's all that I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Okay, next item on tonight's agenda is public participation. This would be pertaining to agenda items. Items 5 and 6 are public hearings, so it would not pertain to those. You'll have the opportunity to speak to those during the public hearing. So if you would like to approach the council concerning items 7 through 27, if you would please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing no one, I'll close public participation on agenda items and remind you that there is another place at the end of tonight's meeting for public participation regarding non-agenda items. Council comments. Councilman Robinson.
Yes, sir. I just want to say again that the Back to School with Blue event was a great success. I've been fortunate enough to be able to attend all 3 years, and it truly is another thing that we do around here that makes it such a special community that we live in. And I can vouch for what the mayor said. I was there when Chief Pettis got into the tank. It was about 2.5 hours into the day, and that water was less than ideal condition at that point in time, but he took it like a champ, and I was dunked a couple of times. But again, it was a great event, and I really appreciate everything the police and fire department did. So thank you very much.
Councilman Conyers.
Really, I just wanted to echo what the mayor said earlier and offer my condolences to Officer Becky Woodruff and the loss of her K-9 Sagan shortly after his retirement. And that's it. I don't have any other comments.
Councilman Brown.
Yeah, I want to give a committee update since we didn't have a chance during the work session. On the Education Advisory Committee meeting we had just a week or so ago, Had all the council members in attendance, minus one. Mayor was there. It was a good meeting. We're discussing the special tax district for the Fairhope feeder pattern. I'll have more information on that next meeting.
Councilman Boone?
No report.
Okay. I have something that has been on my mind, and I've had some citizens approach me and ask me to please address it in a public meeting, and this is, probably not the worst thing in the world, but I would like to, and I'd like to ask the mayor if she would look into this as well, because I'm sure it's probably something that she's noticed. And I seem to notice, if you drive around town, and it's especially on weekends, there's been a lot of signs placed in our flower beds, and they're advertising, garage sales and home sales. There's a lot of realtor signs that I'm seeing in the flower beds. And I'm sorry, folks, I think it's trashy and not keeping with the city. And I'm sure we probably have an ordinance that prevents that. And it's pretty easy to figure out who did it if you have their address on there, or if it's a realtor. And I would just like to see it stop. I want to congratulate the mayor and the council and the staff for recently being voted the prettiest town in Alabama. And if we're going to keep it the prettiest town in Alabama, I think they need to do something about all these signs in our flower beds. So, Mayor, I would respectfully ask you to look into that. And I know that we don't have our sign enforcement personnel working on the weekends, but I'll be glad to. We probably have an army of volunteers that'll pull those signs up and hand them to you and show you who the perpetrators are. But I'd like to see it stop. Maybe just put a warning out. But I think we need to keep the beauty of this city at the forefront.
I'd like for anybody who sees this to just take a picture and email it to me also, or just off on our website, and we will definitely take care of it.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's all I have tonight for my comments, and we'll move on to agenda item number 5, which is a public hearing. This is an ordinance to amend zoning ordinance number 1253 on the request to rezone the property of Firethorn Development LLC to a planned unit development, also known as a PUD, concurrent with the annexation into the city of Fairhope. This property is generally located at the south end of Hemlock Drive, Fairhope, Alabama. I'd like to ask someone to introduce the ordinance, please.
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
And council members, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burrell. This request, as you saw in the description, would request to annex the property of approximately 6.27 acres into the city of Fairhope. Concurrent with the annexation would be establishment of the zoning as a planned unit development, a PUD. The PUD ordinance is included in your package, and of course, this is the first reading. This is the first reading of this request. Staff, the staff recommendation that you'll see in your packet is for approval. The criteria by which staff evaluated this application, 3 main items. One, we looked at the density, the requested density of this new development, because this is an add-on to the existing Firethorn PUD. The add-on area is greater than the density of the adjacent properties and surrounding areas. However, when looked at holistically as a part of the entire development, you actually have a net decrease in density of the entire development as opposed to the adjacent properties and surrounding neighborhood. We also evaluated the comprehensive plan, and looking at there's actually a commercial node that the comprehensive plan contemplates at the intersection of Twin Beach and State Highway 181. The very minimal increase in density of the overall development, 0.08 units per acre, is so very minimal that we didn't see any conflict with the comprehensive plan. Also, the area proposed has a number of buffering features built into it. Among those, that the subject property is entirely bordered on the east side by Quail Creek Golf Course, which is open space, contains no existing development or potential development because of the nature of the golf course. It's bordered on the north by green space and a retention pond that creates a buffer from the adjoining properties. On the south, there is an existing power line easement of 60 feet wide that also creates a buffer between the subject property and the adjoining developable property. The Planning Commission, in addition to this PUD ordinance and annexation request, has also considered and approved a preliminary plat for the subdivision going along with this request. And just a couple of brief comments about the subdivision that will illuminate this application. The green space, including this development, the overall development of Firethorn would have 13% green space, which exceeds the 10% requirement of the subdivision regulations. The drainage system was evaluated by staff and accepted by the Public Works Director. As we talked about earlier, there's, in addition to the existing power line easement, there's an existing wetland area that would be preserved by this action, and that would provide some additional buffer prohibiting construction of structures. They added an additional buffer above and beyond that between Lot 12 and the power line easement. This does, however, maintain an existing connection to Stone Creek that would go through Phase 2, which is called the Silverleaf of the Firethorn development. So based upon these factors and those three criteria, those primary criteria, staff recommends that the requested conditional annexation to planned unit development be approved. And also note that the Planning Commission, on its March 5th, 2018 meeting, also unanimously approved this improvement, the annexation / PUD establishment. There's no conditions of approval, council members, for this action. However, this will satisfy a condition of approval of the subdivision that has preliminary plat approval. And Mr. Steve Pumphrey of Dewberry Engineers is here tonight on behalf of the applicant. I'm happy to answer questions before we turn it over to Mr. Pumphrey.
Any questions for Buford? Okay, Mr. King. Mr. Pumphrey?
I won't add a whole lot. He covered most of it for me, thank goodness. But I will answer questions, and I will just say this. This is a little bit different component of what we're doing in the overall Firethorn PUD, but because of its location and because it is somewhat in a pocketed area, we can't extend to the south because of wetlands. We can't extend to the east because of the golf course. The west is the seller, the person that actually sold the property to Firethorn Development, and he has his private development home residence there. So this is somewhat a pocket, and the developer just felt like, hey, this would be a good opportunity to do somewhat just of a special little neighborhood of their own, and that's why we're proposing to make it like it is. And hopefully you'll agree to add it to the existing PUD. The residents there will have the full benefits of the amenities in Firethorn, but they will have somewhat of a separate homeowners association because it is a little bit different element. There will be a component in this particular little neighborhood for their area to be maintained collectively by a maintenance company for yard work, because these are smaller lots. But they will share in the same maintenance of the infrastructure, the amenities areas of the overall PUD. In general, that's how this is going to be set up. I'll be glad to answer any other questions you may have.
Council, before we open the public hearing, do you have any questions for our staff or for the engineer? And you'll have an opportunity after the public hearing as well.
And I'll wait.
I'll now open the public hearing. If you'd like to speak to this development, please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please. Okay. Seeing no one, I will now close the public hearing. I'll open it up to questions from the council.
Yeah, Buford, I've got just one, just make sure I'm understanding this right. You said that this new PUD that's in front of us right now is actually a higher density than the other portion of Firethorn and the other adjacent developments, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But what, I guess what I'm making sure I understand is, you said even though it's, this particular portion is higher density, when you take it in a whole to the whole Firethorn area, and I'm guessing what you're saying is, if you take this PUD and all the other Firethorn developments together, that's actually less density than the surrounding or adjacent neighborhoods?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so to illuminate that very briefly, not factoring the current application, the development density of Firethorn development is approximately 1.8 units per acre. If the proposed development is factored and looked at holistically, that increases to 1.88 units per acre. That's still less than the 2.55 units per acre weighted average development density of the adjacent properties and surrounding neighborhoods. So we still remain less than what is the weighted average of the surrounding properties.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? What's the weighted average of Quail Creek? Do you know that, Mr. King?
Mr. Burrell, don't have that available right now. I can be prepared for that for the next reading.
Okay, that'll be great. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we will let this lay over until the next council meeting. Thank you. Okay, item number 6 is a public hearing. This is an ordinance to approve an application from Coca-Cola Bottling Company Consolidated for a franchise agreement to operate beverage vending machines at the location specified in bid number 001-018, Beverage Concession 2018. It is to be in the best interest of the public and the city of Fairhope to grant this franchise. Would somebody like to introduce the ordinance, please?
I'll introduce it.
Well, this is not an ordinance. Is this via ordinance? Clerk, I don't see it listed as ordinance, but,
It has an ordinance on here.
okay, it does say that. It does say that, doesn't it? All right. Did you introduce it, sir?
I did.
Okay. Very good. Who can speak to this matter from the staff?
I can.
Coke
Okay,
machines.
all right, clerk, thank you.
This is this goes with the contract that has already been adopted via resolution, probably, and awarded the bid based on probably about, I'd say, February. And we have been waiting on this franchise agreement to come back from Coca-Cola in order to put it on the agenda to actually grant the franchise agreement, which is where all of our cans, machines for Cokes and all that is, that's what we're doing, like the Recreation Department and City Hall.
Question for you, clerk. There's a vending machine in City Hall that would be included in this?
It's included, all areas are
Is
included.
that in the CBD? She already knows
No
where I'm going
comment.
with this. No franchise agreements are allowed in the CBD. And I know that this is, it's kind of not what we think of as your traditional franchise agreement. I just want to
3
make sure we
years
don't.
ago, this was adopted.
Do what now?
I said 3 years ago, the franchise agreement was adopted with all of the areas listed.
How do we do that procedurally? Do we need to make an exception to that? Do we need to put that as part of the franchise agreement to make an exception to our ordinance that doesn't allow franchises in the CBD? It's saying
I
that,
would have to see the list because I wasn't given the list with it.
there's probably a lot of them in the CBD, aren't there? And then I guess my next question is, in our franchise agreement, there's we get 20% of the gross proceeds. I don't know what we're charging for a soda, but are we losing money with the franchise agreement based compared to what we have now? What are we getting? What's the profit sharing right now?
Well, you have a contract with them for the beverages, and then we've got a franchise agreement to get money back, the 20% as any other
Has it always
franchise.
been 20%?
Yes.
I mean, the reason I was asking is, what if we're getting 25 cents a can? I didn't know. Okay, we're only getting 20, if it's $1, we get 20 cents on the dollar? All right. Council, I know that it's kind of all minuscule, but I want to make sure that we follow the letter of the law and do it properly. So what do you propose, clerk, we do about the conundrum of approving a franchise in the CBD?
I would lay it over and then get a list and see if it is listed.
All right, we still have the machines in place right now?
Yes.
Okay, we're not going to be interrupting people's lunch. Okay, Jillian can still get a Coke. You can walk down the hall and get one?
Yes.
Okay.
Lock them up.
All right. Do we want to open the public hearing tonight to this?
I would
Can
go
we
ahead
still
and
do that?
introduce it, yes.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. I know that this is not a big deal, but procedurally, we should be careful. I'll open up the public hearing. If you'd like to speak to this matter, come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. We'll let this lay over until the next meeting and let get some clarification on this. And what we can do, council, if we have to make some kind of material change, we could reintroduce it, suspend with the rules, and vote on it so that we're not waiting another meeting to approve something like that, if that's what we have to do. Anybody have any comments on that? Okay, we'll move on. Item number 7 is a final adoption of an ordinance amending ordinance number 1412 and ordinance number 1315 of the City of Fairhope, Alabama by revision of section 2121 by the adoption of the following electric rates for all electric customers of the city, which was introduced at the June 25th, 2018 City Council meeting. Council, I want to point out just a couple of items as it pertains to item 7 on the backside under security lights, under 250 watts. There was a typographical error. I think it mattered 40 cents instead of 13.71. It might have been 13.31, and it's not a material change. And also, I want to point out that under the industrial rates in the package that we originally received, you should have the correct information tonight, that there is no change to industrial rates at all. So the only changes that you should see would be Section 1 residential and commercial. And while I'm at it, I will go ahead, for the sake of everyone present, just kind of quantify this a little bit. Under residential, the base rate goes up $3.55, and that's a fixed cost. And the first 300 kilowatt hours, the rate changes 300 kilowatt hours per month. The maximum amount your bill could possibly go up is $7.71. For a commercial customer, the base rate went up $10.05, and your usage could go up a maximum of $7.70. I mean, that's it. It cannot exceed that increase. So that's $17.75 is the maximum for a commercial customer it could go up per month. For the industrial, the schools, the cannot pronounce that word, eliminatory, the city use and security lights, there were no changes at all. So the only changes that were made were in those first 2 sections. Any questions about that?
Yeah, before we get too far into that, we tabled this last time, and I know everybody was asked to get with Mr. Peterson to get questions answered. I have not had time to get with Mr. Peterson. Raising utility rates is something I don't take lightly. It's a very complicated issue, and personally, still don't have the information I need or the need to raise the rates as the utilities are functioning. Yes, there are infrastructure needs, but I think we've come to conclusions that there are other ways to address that rather than raising the rates on the citizens. So I'll make a motion to table these 7, 8, and 9 again until everybody's comfortable.
Okay. We do have a motion to table these once again. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Would it help if Mr. Peterson gave you a justification?
Not right now. Like I said, it's a complex issue. He's done his homework and he's given us what we need to this time. But like I said, I haven't been convinced that it's a total need right now for the city.
Okay.
And I will mention that the infrastructure upgrades that were discussed in the 2018 budget have gone up since then. And so this, I think, was reflecting 21 million in all the utilities except water. And the reality is, and we'll go over this soon with the budget, it's closer to 31 million. And that doesn't count the 10 million that we're getting for the BP. for
Right.
the
So
sewer.
40 million all in all.
Well, yeah, because we're using the BP funds for the rehabilitation of the sewer. So these rates have not been increased in 8 years minimum, some of them longer than that. And while I agree that time needs to be spent on this, these rates were introduced in September of 2017, and I do think that time needs to be spent on it. I understand everybody's busy, but we have to do our due diligence.
Well, like I said, I've met with several council members separately and discussed ways to fund these infrastructure projects, and by no means am I saying hold up on infrastructure projects until we increase utility rates, but I think we've come up with other means on funding these projects without raising rates. That's my point.
Right. You still look at rates, even if you have funding for that, you still look at at rate increases based on infrastructure needs. Because we have a lot that has to be updated. When you're
I
looking
agree.
at 31 million, you
I
know,
agree.
it's something that it might need a special meeting to go over the details, and I know that Richard Peterson would be willing to do that.
All right, we're still in discussion. I'm going to ask council, there is a motion in a second, or I'll call that to question in a minute, but in discussion, I'm just going to ask you to approve these. I'm comfortable. I have spoken to Richard. Some of these, the electric was probably the greatest increase. Some of these were, you know, about $3 max. The gas was $3.10. Water was the max of $7, the maximum it could be, and so on. They were all pretty small, and I don't disagree with what the mayor said. These have not been adjusted since at least 2010, eight years, and I think we're going to fall further behind the 8 ball if we don't do some catching up. And I hear what you're saying also, but anyway, that's my piece, and we do have a motion in a second, so I will ask all those in favor of tabling these items 7 through 10 to the next meeting. All those in favor of tabling them, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, table them, say nay. Nay. Okay. They're tabled till next meeting. All right, we'll move on to item number 11. Item 11 is an ordinance regarding annexation. This is the property of Deborah Jean Giles, also known as Deborah Giles, located at 19279 South Ingleside Avenue, Fairhope, Alabama. Who can speak to that?
Council President, this is just a typical annexation, and we do them quarterly, and she requested this probably about a month ago, and it is contiguous with a piece of property that is in the city limits.
Okay. Council, I don't know of any time that we've ever denied someone that asked to be annexed into the city, so it's up to you to bring that up. Would somebody introduce the ordinance?
I'll introduce it.
Okay, I think this is something that we can go ahead and vote on tonight, so I'll ask for a motion to approve the annexation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, if you'll call the question.
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5.
Okay, ordinance passes. Annexation's approved. Hey, item 12 on tonight's...
That was for immediate consideration.
Oh, well, I didn't call it that way.
Sorry.
All right, that was for immediate consideration. Do I need to ask that a question again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to ask that question again. To vote for immediate consideration, suspend with the rules, I'll ask the clerk to call the question. All those in favor say aye, all those opposed say nay. I mean, one at a time. Clerk?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5.
Okay, for final adoption, clerk, will you call the question?
Need
Have a motion and a
second.
second, please.
Motion.
Second.
All right. Clerk, will you call the question?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5.
Aye.
Thank you for catching that, clerk. Thank you, council. Item number 12 is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 1551 specifically to Chapter 2, Article 3, Boards and Committees, Section 2-184, Meetings of the Historic Preservation Committee, Fairhope Code of Ordinances. Somebody like to introduce this ordinance?
I'll introduce ordinance.
Okay. Clerk, is that you to speak to that as well?
No, sir.
I can.
You want to speak to that?
Yes,
Councilman
sir.
Conyers?
Basically, I think this is an amendment to, I'm the council liaison to the Historic Preservation Committee, and we have had some trouble getting together and meeting because I'm in Gulf Shores on Thursdays, and it is set actually in the ordinance as to when their meeting is. So they're really just trying to change the ordinance to reflect that they will meet at the availability of the membership. And then we still have to post the meeting as part of the Open Meetings Act, but right now, we can't change the date of the meetings unless they call a special call meeting each month. So it's really just to accommodate, in large part, my schedule, and I appreciate them being willing to do that. If Gary's still here, I don't see him, but he was here earlier, so.
I don't see any reason why we couldn't vote on this tonight. Council, I would like to entertain a motion to suspend with the rules and vote for immediate consideration. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for immediate consideration. Any comments? Okay, hearing none, clerk, will you call the question?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Aye.
Okay, somebody like to make a motion for final adoption?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second for final adoption. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, clerk, will you call the question?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Aye.
Okay, ordinance is amended. Thank you, council. Item 13 is a resolution. The city council approves and authorizes the mayor and the city to enter into a grant agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration to construct taxiway East Terminal Area Phase 3, paving and lighting for 2000. I think that should be Phase 4. Is that right?
Jack, I think it's actually, in their records, it's phase
In their records, Phase 3. Okay, that's what I make sure.
We were
Okay.
told not to change it.
They did?
We were told not to change it.
Okay, all right. East Terminal Area Phase 3, paving and lighting for 2,000 plus or minus feet, access to taxiways and 1,100 plus or minus feet parallel taxiway, and site utilities as the ATL Sonny Callahan Airport. The FAA portion of this grant amount is up to $3,255,318. I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the mayor and the city to enter the grant agreement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, item 14 is a resolution that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to execute a contract for extension number 1 of bid number 026-17, the installation of seasonal supplemental LED lighting with Winterland Incorporated for an additional 1 year as per the terms and conditions of the original contract with a total annual cost not to exceed $147,800. This was tabled at the July 9th, 2018 City Council meeting. Entertain a motion to pass this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say, I think we ought to bring it up again next year philosophically, I guess, whether Richard and Richard would rather have the additional employees that you could hire with these funds and then absorb the hanging of the lights internally, or if they'd rather outsource it.
Or, and there's other options as well, such
Right.
as, seasonal employees going off or, overtime, if people want to do that.
Right.
I think there's some options. We'll start looking at that in, in the spring of the year. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Item 15 is a resolution that the mayor and city clerk be, and they hereby are, is that correct English? Authorized and directed to execute and attest respectively for and behalf of the city of Fairhope a contract by and between the city of Fairhope and Emerald Coast Utilities Authority in the amount of revenue or expense determined by a reference market price index for recyclables commodities by not to exceed $5,000 on an annual basis on current market rate for a period to begin September 1st, 2018, and to expire on September 30th, 2020, for the receipt and process of City of Fairhope recyclables as outlined in the contract attached hereto and made a part hereof as though set forth in full. Did you write this, Jay? A copy of said contract is on file in the office of the city clerk. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, and just one correction, the term will run to 2019, not 2020, as stated in there. That was a request of ECUA that basically they didn't want to go for more than a year period on that. And we have a right to renew. This was workshopped with y'all several months
Yeah,
ago.
in plain English, what does all that mean?
Basically, ECUA, who is the receiver of our recycled commodities right now, wants us to be under an agreement with them so that there's some stability in that. This agreement is very flexible for us, meaning that we have the right to deliver on an as-needed basis, meaning that if we find a better buyer or a better deal, we can pursue that without violating this agreement. But as stated, right now, the cost to deliver is $2 per ton. We produce no more than 2,000 tons of recyclables a year, so that's where that number $5,000 came from, with a little bit of margin of error. But if that commodity rate continues to drop, that cost per ton can go up per the schedule that's attached to the agreement. And of course, our commitment to you is if we start approaching that $5,000 number in the next 13 months, we're coming back to you to discuss what other options we have at that point in time.
Questions, council?
So we're paying up to $5,000 to recycle our stuff.
That is correct, for them to receive it.
Okay. So we are not making a nickel on recyclable, we're paying.
No, but if you will note in the scale, that if the market gets over $105 a ton, they start paying us $5 per ton, and it could go as high as $25 a ton based upon their current scale. But unfortunately, as we discussed in work session, the commodity market's going in the wrong direction for our side of the equation right now.
Are we hanging on to any of these commodities right now?
Yes, we are, what we can, of course, metals, we're still doing okay on, aluminum, and then cardboard, but even cardboard has just dropped to $35 a ton right now, which is not really good. We were in the fall of last year, we were still $105 a ton on cardboard, so. But yes, we're hanging on to those things that are, one, dropped off, or those that are picked up by commodity, meaning most of our downtown businesses are mostly cardboard, so that product is kept out of the mix stream and is sold to CarStar over in Mobile.
What are we doing with the glass? I mean, are we even able to sell it or give it away?
We've not had any problem with glass in this sense, is that we don't get anything for it, but once we get a sufficient enough volume, there is a buyer out of Atlanta that comes and hauls it, and the last time that we did that, we didn't pay them anything, and they didn't pay us, but we got it into the recycle stream.
But it's not going, but we are saving the money because we don't have any tipping fees for the glass going to the landfills.
That is correct, and the nice thing about glass is we store it outside. It doesn't weather, it doesn't deteriorate, it doesn't go anywhere. So we can stockpile it until we have a sufficient load. Usually, what that buyer wants is at least 3 tractor-trailer loads before he will do a
Well,
run.
that's actually a better response than I thought I was going to get. That's excellent, actually.
So what material are we taking to this ECUA?
Just as
Plastic?
we discussed about the straws earlier, it's mostly
Plastics.
plastics. Nobody wants them right now. All the HDPEs, the 1, the 2, the 3s, the 4s, just no market for it right now.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson, council? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to pass this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Council. Thank you. Item 16 is a resolution. The City Council approves the selection of Christian Preuss Landscape Architecture to perform visual preference survey for the Economic and Community Development Department, and hereby authorizes Mayor Karen Wilson to establish a not-to-exceed limit of $15,000 and to execute the associated contract. Council, I know that this was discussed at the last meeting. Would anybody like for Ms. Botop to come up and explain this once again? Would you like to say something, Shirley?
I mean, do y'all have
Do you have any
questions? We did
questions?
talk about it at the work session, but happy to answer. This is going to be focused primarily on the Greeno Road corridor to help give us literally some visual preference from the community, landowners, developers, and others to report back out to the Planning Commission and to you to share ideas about what they do want to see, what people want to see, what citizens want to see on 98. Because we keep saying we don't want to be Airport Boulevard, no offense to our sister city over there, but it will help us define.
Hoping to get $4,000 in the grant for this. I'm saying it's not
Yes.
guaranteed, but we're applying for that,
Yes,
right?
we are.
Excellent. Okay, council, I entertain a motion to pass this resolution. So moved. Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
council. Item 17 is a resolution. The city council approves the selection of Christian Preuss Landscape Architecture LLC to perform on-call professional architectural and urban design for the Public Works Department, and hereby authorizes Mayor Karen Wilson to establish a not-to-exceed limit of $27,900 and to execute the associated contract. Shirley, you want to briefly describe that as well?
Well, I took Sherry
Oh,
Lee's,
sorry.
but I'm not as
I was
good
looking
looking, but I'll try to do a good job.
Wow.
And we discussed this last meeting with the council, and I do want to clarify a few things. This would be on call for any department of the city. And discussion with Jillian, the $27,900 was based upon an estimate that if he did this type of service in a given month, that's what it would be. That's not what we're saying we're going to spend. And the agreement will state that before he can provide a service, he has to be provided with a purchase requisition so we know what the funding source is, meaning that if planning and zoning wanted his services for something, they would request and get a purchase requisition for that service if it's public works, if it's park and recreation, if it's economic development. So this is not budgeting this amount of money. That is saying the maximum cap it could be on an annual basis would be this, but it would all be paid for out of budgeted dollars within the department requesting the services. And I hope that clarified it.
And part of this was that manual or whatever the term you were using as far as what things should look like in the city.
That's correct. Well, this would be, my example is that like Public Works is constantly getting into an improvement project.
Right, we
that-
also talked about some kind of manual that would,
Yes, the vernacular for
Vernacular.
park benches and things of that nature, yes.
that's in there as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, as I look at Mr. Preuss's agreement, it says that includes 15 hours of work per month, and if it's not used, it would roll over to the next month. And so that almost led me to believe that if this is what's in our book, that leads me to believe that we would be on the hook for 27.9. And then at the end of the contract period, if we didn't use all that, would we be on the hook to pay that, or would we just pay
Well,
for the
that,
work that was specified? I'm looking at what's in our book, and if that's what we're voting on, I'm not sure it says the same thing you're saying.
well, and that was a discussion Sherry Lee and then I and Jillian had, and that was to make sure that the expectation is he's not guaranteed 15 hours of payment a month. It's on an on-call basis, meaning that if we need him to do a specific project, that then whatever the department is requesting that services, and that means we'll need to modify that agreement. I mean, that is our
It says in there
intent.
if you don't spend 15 hours, it'd be a credit.
Yeah, but then at the end, at the end of the contract period, do we still pay for that? It's a monthly amount in there, though. You have to pay.
It says that keep up with the time over a course of a month. If time spent during the course of the month is less than proposed monthly fee, then a credit will be applied towards the next month.
And if you're more comfortable to hold this over to the next to get that cleaned up, we will do that and readdress it at that point in time.
But what I say, it represents 15 hours of work per month, so you're paying that fixed amount per month instead of doing it on call. That's what that means. That's how it's written. It's on call, but you're paying for X amount. You are paying, if you go back to.
Well, not according to the note in his,
Yeah, well, I mean, if our intent was for it to be on-call and not a guaranteed price, then we need to revise
to
this
correct
agreement.
that. Yes,
to
I agree.
reflect that, yeah.
See this right here?
Would that mean if you needed more than 15 hours in a month, and like 20, and maybe 10 the next
well,
month?
that's not what his thing says.
Right.
Absolutely, with the understanding that we, as an aggregate from all
Right.
the departments, we would not exceed that amount in an annual
Okay.
period. So that would be my intent. And frankly, none of us, go ahead.
It was our understanding, this isn't a retainer situation. If he doesn't do any work, there's no payment for any work. It's just approving him.
Well, like
not
Jack
to
said, the
for
way the
not to
RFQ
exceed.
is written, it is a retainer.
Well, then we need to,
Because the
we
memo.
need to correct it. Yeah, it shouldn't
Yeah,
be
the
that way. And
memo-
that
His
wasn't
memo
his
is-
understanding.
His
either.
memo is correct, the RFQ is wrong.
Well, the memo says he'll bill the city a lump sum of $23.25 a month.
I think if we just make the resolution, on-call professional services for an amount not to exceed 27,900, keep it just at that, and ignore what's, in that book, then we're
We're
fine.
okay.
It gives you the authority to spend up to that.
Yeah.
And you said,
Annually.
what was the part you said he would submit a statement of work each time?
Yeah, he could not do any work until he had a purchase requisition from the department requesting the work, meaning that's gone through the green sheet process and had been pre-approved, so.
Yeah. The way the resolution is actually written is probably, I think, proper as to the way we want it, but the supporting language,
Right.
muddied it up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Do we have the motion yet? I would ask somebody, if you do decide to make a motion to approve the selection, to, state your motion exactly as the resolution's written in your book and not what's in the back, just the on-call with a not-to-exceed amount. So can I entertain a motion for that, please?
So moved as the resolution is written.
On the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay.
Thank you.
Resolution passes.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Council. Okay, item 18 is a resolution. The City Council approves the selection of Hummingbird and South to perform professional advertising and public relations for economic and community development. Hereby authorizes Mayor Karen Wilson to negotiate a fee schedule and establish a not-to-exceed limit with this firm. Sherry Lee, once again. You might as well sit on it, Peter.
Get my exercise tonight. So this, we actually have money in the budget under what was called sports tourism. And what we were looking for, what we would like to do is work with someone who can help us with more of a tourism / branding project. And this is, the mayor has selected this Hummingbird and South, who also, they did the branding for Fairhope Brewing Company. They've done a lot of work. They've did USA's rebranding. They have an extensive portfolio. They're a pretty young company, meaning they've been in existence for not quite 3 years as a company, but they've done a lot of great work in that time.
Tell the council what you told me earlier today about, some of the work that they would be performing in trying to promote the city of Fairhope to tourists that are visiting the Alabama beaches.
Right. So we're looking at doing, in the budget, we put a video campaign. We already had money in the budget for 30-second spots, which we've started working on. Someone's been shooting them for us. But what we have now is these spots that they'll be in-room, hotels and condos, and Jack mentioned something to me today that I wasn't aware of, which I will pursue too, through some of our franchise agreements where we can have them play on some dedicated channels. These 30-second spots will advertise day shopping, day trips, all to beachgoers all across the Gulf Coast to come shop in Fairhope. And I know we talk about the struggle with being crowded and tourists, but this is, when people are sunburned and need a day off the beach, and they can come spend money downtown and eat and hang out. So this will advertise to those, and it will go from Louisiana to Florida. So it's a pretty expansive campaign, and it's a company called Coastal 360 is the one that does this in-room service. They're the only ones that do it. They own it. And so in these videos that we did, these 30-second spots, we have right now the municipal seal kind of flying in, as our, and it just, it's a little bit out of context because you have a very government-looking seal, and it just became more apparent again. I know we've talked about this since I've been here, a brand for Fairhope, and what does that mean? But it would be great to work with someone like this who can help walk us through that. I know we talked about the Fairhope Stores brand, and that was an issue with some downtown merchants, some citizens that have contacted me directly. I've got a lot of feedback about that wasn't a good idea, and so this is an alternative to that, to develop something brand new.
I also want to say, and we don't have a fee schedule established yet, but I will tell you that Sherry Lee had told me a ROM cost of this would be in the thousands of dollars, not in the tens of thousands of dollars, and not in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but in the thousands.
Right. We're not looking for a $60,000 or $600,000 Gulf Shores brand or $60,000 even process that some businesses do or universities. This is a very short and sweet project that would engage the community for feedback, leadership, electeds, everyone get feedback, and you all would choose.
Well, if we don't like the fee schedule, we don't have to approve it either.
Well, and that's true. exactly
And
right.
that's one of the main reasons why we have that two-step process. You come back to us with a price, and we can say yea or nay to it, council. Any questions for Ms. Botop?
No, I just appreciate you clarifying, because at first, we constantly hear from people that things are overcrowded and we don't need to grow the area, and you see something about PR and marketing, and you're thinking, we're doing pretty good in that department, it seems
Right.
like, so.
Right.
I appreciate you clarifying.
This is more,
That's forward.
it's kind of like the visual preference survey. It's defining it's the community defining who we are through a brand of our own.
I'll entertain a motion to pass this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, council. Thank you, Ms. Botop. Item 19 is a resolution. The City Council rescinds resolution number 3096-18 due to the inadvertent selection of Stewart Engineering Incorporated and approves the selection of G.W. Stewart doing business as Stewart Engineering and Construction. And hereby authorizes Mayor Karen Wilson to execute a contract with G.W. Stewart to perform professional engineering services for electrical services at the Fairhope Dock with a not-to-exceed amount of $8,000. Okay, entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, council. Item number 20 is a resolution that certain items are declared surplus, and the mayor and city treasurer are hereby authorized and directed to dispose of personal property owned by the city of Fairhope by one of the following methods. One, receiving bids for such property via gov deals sold to the highest bidder, provided, however, the city council shall have the authority to reject all bids when its opinion it deems the bids be less than adequate consideration for the personal property. And two, sold for scrap or recycle at the highest offered value. And three, disposal via the landfill. Can I entertain a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson, would you please explain that quickly?
Again, this is the continuation of our gov deals, as well as we have some items we think have more scrap value than they do auction value. And there's one item, I think, or two that were identified that just will probably need to be disposed of. And I do want to update the mayor's numbers that I gave her incorrectly. I had Jill pull it today. This year alone, our income from gov deals is $165,235. We had a good week last week. And just to give comparison, in 2017, it was $97,665, and 2016 was in the mid-70s. And this is round two. And so you can see by the pictures, if you've got those in your packet, that we've been working with our purchasing department and going through the warehouse and identifying things that are assets that have no use to us as a city, but hopefully can bring income in on the auction sales. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
Curious how much you can get for damaged birdhouses on this list.
I have learned one thing about government deals. If you put it on there, somebody will bid on it.
What was it?
Can you put geese on there?
Damaged birdhouses.
Damaged birdhouses.
Geese?
If your hobby is repairing damaged birdhouses, there might be a buyer. All right. I'll entertain a motion to declare these items surplus.
You have a motion and a second.
I already have a motion and a second. All right, well then I'll ask for any more discussion. How about that? All right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, council. Thank you, clerk, for keeping me straight. That's why you're up here. Item 21 is a resolution to award the bid to Crowder Gulf LLC for disaster debris removal and disposal contract. Bid number 020-18 and allow bid number 009-17 to expire on August 8, 2018. This contract had to be rebid due to federal procurement guideline requirements.
And I would
Mr.
like
Johnson.
to brag on your purchasing manager. This was probably the first biggie that Jill had to put together. And I mean, she did a phenomenal job. She brought together a task force of individuals to do the evaluations. And she did just an absolutely wonderful job. And I will tell you, it was very tough. If you look at the bid tabs, probably the top three were separated by a very minute of difference. And I think we, gave our recommendation for who we think performed the best in that evaluation. And, appreciate all her hard work, and there's a certain comfort level to get this under contract before the real hurricane season gets here. Be glad to answer any other questions.
Council, I have several questions, but I'll defer to you. Do you have questions for Mr. Johnson?
Yes, my question would be, I really couldn't read the numbers. It was really hard to blow it up enough to read it, but Crowder was low bidder, and obviously they're well-known, and I'm just curious if we had an Ivan-type storm, do we have a ballpark on what that would cost? Is that in there?
Yes, there were several criteria that was judged. One is we actually used an Ivan-type volume event as our basis for financial judgment, okay? Then, one of the areas was all past litigation for the last 5 years. And of course, the top three performers had 0 to none. And then how well that they were capitalized, meaning what was their individual event bonding and their aggregate, what was their equipment availability that they actually own, meaning that they don't have to go and lease or do secondary parties with subs or anything like that, and all that. And really, and I say it, the top three in there were so close, it was neck and neck, and the margin of difference wasn't much, but I think we've came to the conclusion, and and we did. There was 2 vendors that were located in our region, in our area, and that was one of the criterias is local preference, and there was some weighting given to that as well. So
Thank you. I appreciate that answer.
I want to point out there were 3 bids that were lower than the chosen bid. And also want to ask why, last year we missed the deadline to renew the contract with Pittman Tractor, and so it was rebid and awarded to D&J. And I want to know, did not we have a consultant last year that helped us with that bid process when we awarded that to D&J?
I do believe we did, yes.
So we paid them.
No, we didn't have a consultant. We did reach out to Volkert, and they helped us as a favor, because we found out about it.
Was that for this one then?
No, this was last year, because, like you, I found out the day that we got it, that it was expiring. So we wanted to try to get professional eyes on
I
it.
thought we hired some consultant to help us with our bid process, or, I know, Jillian, you come up here to explain that. I thought we hired a consultant to help us with the bid process last year.
Well, Volkert helped us, but we didn't pay them.
Hold on, and then D&J still had more options left on their contract. I'd like to know what that contract was, and we're saying due to federal procurement guideline requirements.
Well, I do want to,
What does that mean? What if we had a 5-year contract where somebody in the federal government comes in and changes the guidelines and we have to rebid it, and it costs us money to do that?
We did have a consultant look at our bid last year, and some of the requirements were missed.
We had a paid consultant, and we
Yes.
missed some.
we didn't pay, is this
We had a
Volkert?
paid consultant.
No, it's DEMA, Diversified Emergency Management, out of Mobile.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they reviewed our bid and our disaster management plan. And then it was brought to my attention back in late April that they had missed some of the requirements. And those requirements must have just been overlooked because they were applicable as of 2016.
Well, I did email, you weren't here, but to find out if, because Volkert had also mentioned, make sure these are FEMA approved. And I did email and never got a response back. So,
And granted, hopefully we'll never have to invoke this contract this year. What's the difference in what the contract that we had, that we have right now, that we can still extend? Now, I don't know if I don't know how much trouble we'd be in extending a contract that doesn't meet federal guidelines. How serious in nature are they? But what is the price difference in this one that we're asking to approve tonight and the one that we have in place right now?
I'm not sure and I'm not sure what D&J was.
But now here we are at the last hour. We can't wait till another meeting to approve this. And to me, that's a must-answer question.
Well, and let me do clarify that that the substance of the failure to include certain requirements and clauses in the competitive process a year ago basically could put us in a position, if we activated this contract, that FEMA would deny the reimbursement through the public assistance, meaning that, and so their guidelines is that if I was you need to redo this bid with this verbiage in it and these requirements, and it's all mostly minority-owned, women-owned, disadvantaged business enterprises. We didn't have that in there, and it's required. They're very specific about that. So that's why we're here today. We would have preferred to renew for another year, because this is a lot of work to go out. This is a difficult bid process, so.
Council President, it's not the bid the contract that's the issue, it's the bid. The bid was not
The bid
done correct-
process
Was not done
wasn't-
correctly
okay.
with the wording.
And the part, I realize that Crowder Golf isn't the low bidder, but part of the federal requirements was that there's evaluation criteria and how you're going to evaluate it. So there was weights tied to each section. So that's how Crowder Golf was, with the weighted average, was the highest, I guess. was
Yeah,
the
if they were
best
cheaper
option.
than somebody who's up in Huntsville, they're right here down the street, you can mobilize faster. That, for example, would make more sense to me to have them as the contract. But I couldn't read any of the numbers, so
Well,
how far off?
for example, is D&J local?
No, they're in
They're in
Auburn,
Auburn.
Alabama.
Okay. What about TFR?
They're in Florida.
Okay, and then Series?
I'm sorry, Ceres is in Florida, TFR is in Texas. DRC had a local office as well, but they are not, I think Crowder Golf's lower than them.
Those were the three that were lower, and that's why I asked. And, there is some school of thought that says if you have a large corporation, they have the capacity to handle this, but if they have numerous customers, which they do, where are we at in the hierarchy? Are we going to be treated like everybody else, or are we going to be second fiddle? I don't know. I don't know. You can't really answer that. That's a rhetorical question, but that's been some wisdom that's been asked as well. Just if you get so big, can you service everybody?
And I will tell you, I think it's fair to say that the top three were probably the three biggest as far as a debris corporation. The one out of Florida was monstrous,
Yeah.
so.
So, council, I'll just tell you, there is, and it's within the limits of what you're allowed to vote. You're allowed so much flexibility in given local consideration, but the Crowder Golf is roughly $200,000, $196,000 higher than the lowest bid.
And please understand that the guidelines and criteria, the pricing was only 20% weighted of all the items evaluated.
Right,
So,
I understand.
if,
Understood.
I won't name names, but one of them had 3.5 pages of litigation active, and they may have been the low price. I'm not sure that makes them the best selection.
I'm just making sure everybody's aware, and I appreciate that. Very good feedback, very good answers. Okay. Clerk, where are we on the motion and resolution?
You need a motion and a second.
I make a motion.
Okay. We have a motion to award the bid to Crowder Golf and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, thank you for those answers.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, resolution passes. Item 22 is a resolution, the City Council hereby repeals Resolution Number 2153-13 and Number 2093-13, Number 452-03, and Number 301-89, and hereby establishes a recycling committee for the City of Fairhope and rules to govern its operation. Clerk, who's to cover that?
Mr. Gover put them on the agenda. Who's the liaison for the recycling committee?
I am, but I don't know anything about this.
I don't have the resolution in front of me, but it's to reduce, I think, from 12 to 7 and to put 2 all of these resolutions together as one with their mission statement, and that's the main thing that they changed.
You're all having a hard time getting quorum?
We had, yeah.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, it is, it's some good recommendations, though, and it is kind of, if
As
you
I
look
was
back,
told
bringing.
today, the meetings have only been 2 people.
It brings 4 resolutions that form that together to create one. Is Mr. Gover here?
No, he was here earlier.
Councilman Robinson, do you want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve this.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I don't think you can do a lot of damage with this. It's only improving it, so I agree with you. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, repealing those resolutions and establishing or reestablishing the recycling committee, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, resolution passes. Item number 23 are appointments to the Historic Preservation Committee. The nominees for a 3-year term are Jill Goddard, Lisa Marie Atchley, and Gabriel Gold Vuxon. Did I pronounce that right? Hope I did.
Not sure.
What is it? Vuxon, okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to appoint these nominees.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just say that I talked to Gary earlier. The Historic Preservation Committee has vetted all 3 of these proposed members and recommends them.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the appointments, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, appointments are made. Item 24 concerns the impact fees. This is an ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 1331, an ordinance establishing impact fees of new development in the city of Fairhope, Alabama. This was discussed in the work session, and I'll ask only that someone introduce this ordinance.
I'll introduce the ordinance.
Okay, the ordinance has been introduced, and I'll ask that this just lay over for consideration, more discussion at the next council meeting. Item 25 was added to the amended agenda. This is our Harbor Board appointment. The nominee to fill the unexpired term of Bob Watts is to appoint Mr. Chris Cunningham. You have the resume there. I will entertain a motion to appoint the nominee, Chris Cunningham.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, the appointment is made. Okay, before we go into executive session, we'll go to public participation for non-agenda items. If you have anything else to bring forth before the council, if you'll please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is John Manellis. I live at 104 White Avenue in Fairhope. For the past 2 years, I've attended most of the city council meetings and many of the council work sessions. I have a great deal of respect for each of you, each council members, and for you, Mayor Wilson. Each of you dedicate your time for the betterment of Fairhope. I appreciate what you do on our behalf with minimal compensation. As I've stated before, you're certainly not doing this for the money. In fact, Mayor Wilson's case, your $30,000 a year salary hardly compensates for what I would estimate to be about an 80-hour work week on your behalf. I've had the benefit and pleasure of engaging with Councilman Brown, Councilman Robinson, and Mayor Wilson on a variety of issues. Each have been kind enough to provide me the time to do so. I have come before you, the council, on several occasions of concerns to me and to others in our community, mostly about the continued and unresolved polluting of our bay. A few months ago, after one such address where I also called into question one of Mayor Wilson's actions, I received an invitation from her, unsolicited, to meet with her. She was generous with her time while I conveyed several of my concerns. Mayor Wilson provided her perspective on these issues, as well as provided me with her overall vision for Fairhope, which I mostly support. Keep in mind, I'm just one citizen. There's nothing special about me amongst thousands of citizens in Fairhope, and I greatly appreciated that she cared enough about my opinion to engage with me. On July 10th, I read an article posted in the Courier which cited that Councilman Boone had turned over evidence to the Baldwin County District Attorney of what he believed was a violation of state law by the mayor. At issue was the mayor's public support of a petition which was circulating regarding a change to Fairhope's current form of government to a council-manager form. Time does not allow me to cite the mayor's response, but I would refer any interested citizen to this particular article by the Courier, which cites Alabama Attorney General opinion, Alabama Supreme Court rulings, as well as a recent Circuit Court ruling, which actually would refute Councilman Boone's claim and support Mayor Wilson's claim that her actions were legal and proper. In fact, in their rulings, the analogy cited was when any elected leader, public official, publicly supports what they cite as advocacy issues, such as proposed ordinances, propositions, tax millage, and things of this like, not individual candidacies, individuals. Councilman Boone, my comments are certainly not attacked on you personally, but on this particular action. I have no doubt that you're dedicated to the betterment of Fairhope. However, I have watched the discord that has occurred in these chambers over the past 18 months. I don't have a side. I'm not on anyone's side. I will speak out, however, for what I believe to be fair and right. In fact, early in this council term, I spoke out against what I believe to be were malicious and unsupported claims being made against Council President Burrell, who I believe to be a man of integrity. Folks, we have almost 2 years left on this council term. I don't expect much to change in terms of anyone's like or dislike of one another. What I do hope for is that there might be more of a turning of the cheek and less fuel being tossed in an already hot fire. I know each of you are tired of the discord, as are the citizens you serve. Councilman Boone, I would just submit to you, and it's just my view, that your action in referring to the district attorney's office, what you believe to be evidence, was unwarranted and actually contributes to fueling that fire. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else?
I'm Bob McLeod, 106 Par Circle. Now, I wanted to make a brief comment on the proposed rate increase. And that is an agenda item. Can I speak on that?
Yes, sir, you can speak on
Okay.
any item right now.
My suggestion is that we look for alternate terms. I'm 100% in favor of providing the infrastructure. We need to put that money up, but I think that we need to look at the alternate sources of payment. And one thing that I'm thinking about is that a goodly sum of the revenue from the utilities goes over to non-utility city services. I think it's somewhere around $3 million. And I wondered if we couldn't use some of that on this infrastructure. Or I wondered if, well, I know that in times go by, the utilities finance the city operation, but they got where it was completely inadequate, and about 8 years ago, the city, and Fairhope was, I think, the last city in Alabama to come up with a 2% sales tax, but that went in, and that has generated a lot of revenue. So I wondered if there are not alternate sources that we can use for this infrastructure. I appreciate what the utilities do. They do a great job. And I suggest that you look at other sources, maybe cutting down on debt reduction, but whatever. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Okay, if not, I'll close public participation. Move to the next item on tonight's agenda, and I will read this letter and then ask you for a vote to go into executive session. This states, as litigation counsel, I, which is not me, by the way, as litigation counsel, I, Steve Lacy, hereby request the Fairhope City Council go into executive session based on Alabama Code 36-25A-783 to discuss pending litigation and possible settlement options regarding said pending litigation. As litigation counsel, I hereby request the City Council of the City of Fairhope rise from regular City Council meeting on Monday, July 23rd, 2018, to go into executive session. The City Council shall be in executive session for approximately 30 to 45 minutes. At the end of the executive session, the City Council shall return to the City Council chambers to resume the regular City Council meeting. Can I entertain a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, we'll be back in 30 to 45 minutes. Thank you. Call this meeting back to order. I would like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, thank you.